People who had considered themselves incels, involuntary celibates, but have since had sex. How do you feel looking back at your previous self? I did consider myself mostly an incel. Maybe, more of a nice guy, but to my core I believed that girls were only after the chads and douchebags. It was from the ages of 12 to 18, so a lot through my formative years. Here's the mindset: you've never had any awareness of the fact that girls don't indeed chase douchebags, because that's all you've ever looked for. Whenever you see a pretty girl who says she is in a relationship, you immediately assume that her boyfriend is a terrible person. Though, not because he is, but because you yourself assume that you would just be so much better off with her than any other person. You won't see your own flaws, so you'll assume the worst of the guy. The truth is, it comes down to major insecurity issues and a lack of any male relationships. If you don't have many different male friends, you're going to assume that only the cocky guys get the girls. In reality, they are displaying charisma and confidence, something that is very attractive. Everyone knows this. It's a lack of awareness. It's easier to say that you yourself are too short, too ugly, too untalented, etc. than to admit that you have a crappy personality with little to no charisma. You won't find a happy, charming incel. If I could have gone back to myself and say, here's the deal. Girls don't look for one particular thing in a dude. They don't just want a tall dude, or a wide-jawed dude. They want someone to be comfortable around. They don't want you to praise them as some higher being, they want to be treated with respect. But most importantly, they don't exist to have sex with you. They don't even exist to be your friend. They don't owe you anything, no one does. Just because you like them, doesn't mean they have to like you. Don't try to sleep with girls by being their friend. Be grateful that someone sees any quality in your person for them to want to be around you at all. Be grateful that someone wants to be your friend. You are shallow and you only care about looks. You saying it's about personality is all bullshit. That's it. I was a young, angry kid. I'm glad I'm the man I am today. I've had a lot of confidence issues which went away as I grew older. I went through many edgy phases, and it took all of these mistakes to learn them. So I feel empathy for incels because they don't know any better. They don't know just how wrong they are, because admitting fault and self-improvement takes time and effort. Blaming and hating girls does not. Instead of hating girls, my only wish is that I started on self-improvement sooner. Edit. Many are asking what self-improvement means in this context. I believe it is subjective, but to me, it meant physical, mental, and emotional. Hit the gym, get hobbies, make female friends for the sake of friendship, and do real kind things for the sake of goodness and kindness. I'm good friends with a guy who used to be a part of a popular incel website, and he used to post on Reddit. That's actually how we met. He is still growing a lot as a person. He was incredibly angry. He blamed being ugly for his failure with women, and nothing anyone said could convince him that it wasn't that. It was that he thought that he would only be happy with a really hot girl. We hung out once and were talking about how he wanted to approach women out with us. We were at a very nice place and the neighborhood had plenty of high-maintenance women, you know, the kind wearing expensive athleisure and who spent their entire lives dieting and doing spinning classes. Expensive hair and nails, all that. Women who were really dedicated to looking good. There were also the girls that worked there, and a few other customers about our age. He literally only saw the hot ladies. He was upset they'd never date anyone like him, someone who has pretty much no career ambition, doesn't want to conform by dressing or eating like they do, etc. And the average women in there just weren't women to him. It was really dehumanizing, because I saw him as an equal, and although he was sort of my friend, he didn't see me as human as he saw the hot ladies in Lululemon. He eventually saw a therapist. Actually, a few therapists. It was mostly to tell people he'd done it, but he stuck with it. Saw a few until one worked. And he started working on himself. We texted, emailed, etc. hung out a few times, but honestly he wasn't working too hard on making friends, because he'd constantly say stuff that was belittling or mean just to hurt me or women in general, because he could. He also had spent too much time in black pill subreddits, because he brought it up on the one time I invited him out with my trivia team. A few months ago, before I had some major health issues and the pandemic kicked off, he got back in touch. He sent me a long email that was actually okay-ish. He had briefly dated a woman, they had slept together, and then he realized he still actually hated women and her too, because she wasn't living up to his fantasy. And that no one could. He realized he had a lot of conflicting ideas, that women shouldn't depend on men for money, but they also shouldn't be too career-focused, etc. Just a lot of bad stuff all rolled up into one. He had included a bunch of stuff I absolutely hated, like the fact that he still feels that women our age are past their prime and have cellulite. I basically didn't have a ton of energy to reply other than to tell him I hoped he kept working at it and wasn't dating anyone else until he got over actively hating women. I was involuntarily celibate in that I wanted to have sexual relationships, but never met anyone interested. I didn't put any effort in, so it was kinda my fault. My lifestyle just didn't lend itself to meeting people, so it was hard. When I finally did get out there and start having relationships, it was like a weight lifted off my shoulders. I realized that I had previously felt like an incomplete person because of my inability to connect with anyone, and that was holding me back from other things in life. Like I thought nothing else was worth pursuing because I hadn't properly entered adulthood yet. I kinda wish I'd just got on with it and pursued my other interests a bit more. I don't know why I had to wait. Maybe it was depression relating to me being lonely. Edit. Thinking about it a bit more, I put off dating for a long time because I thought I had to have my life in order first, which was why I waited until I hit some other life milestones. Once I hit those, I realized I had no excuse and finally started online dating. First one left me, which hit me pretty hard after doing something positive for myself. Second one, we really hit it off, and that's when I turned into a different person. It's worth the effort. I was a being of pure hatred. I always thought it was someone else's fault. Even though I have had sex since that time, I think it's important to know that having sex isn't what vindicates you. Inceldom is a state of mind which requires strength and sometimes outside guidance to overcome. One of my friends essentially gave me a proverbial slap to the face on the subject and told me exactly what to do and how to become a more better person. In conclusion, I look back with regret and sorrow, for all the people I hurt and made uncomfortable, because I know there are many. Edit. My friend was and is someone I looked up to, so I suppose that is an influence, but basically the thing that I needed to understand was that the fact the girls who I was constantly being rejected by were just people living their best life, and me whining about it wouldn't change their preferences, so instead I worked on being happy without needing a GF and just letting it happen when it happens. I remember when I first found the incel community, it was actually a pretty helpful place. It was more of a support group for people who were unattractive, socially awkward, act. There wasn't any of this nice guy, give sex bullshit. Everyone knew why they were involuntarily celibate, and just wanted to vent frustrations and get support. It was really good for my confidence. Then the toxic masculinity started to creep in and took right over, as everyone knows. I fell on the incel line of being not unattractive, but personality-wise, all I did was play video games. I didn't have anything interesting about my life, and so women just weren't interested in me, and I never put myself into situations to meet people. New job with great people, I started to do different things. Played hockey for the first time at 30. Joined the group for a couple of traveling tournaments where we got absolutely Vegas-type plastered for weekends in different cities. Job is very much a hangout and chat type job, security, so talking with the women on the team on the regular starts removing the air of mystique I had built around them. Got my motorcycle license, and did a solo trip across the states from Canada to the Mexican border, and back that same year. Started doing Tough Mudders, buying a season pass and traveling to any of the ones I could drive to. Then I got Tinder and just started going on dates. Had a few good, few bad, and then met my wife. All in all, I ultimately blame a World of Warcraft addiction that held me back in my early 20s to my late 20s and just missed out on those socially formative years. Finally my time to shine, not sure if I should be proud of that. I found my first incel forum at 13, even though it didn't have that name. But the ideologies were the same. I was miserable back then, didn't have many friends, my grades were shit and I got bullied a lot. This made me spend most of my time inside playing video games and hating life. I hated everyone because all of my experiences with people were being bullied. I started being bullied at 4 and it didn't stop until the middle of high school. The forums were full of people thinking the same. It made me feel secure, like I was right. I didn't have to walk the hard way to improve myself. They told me I could just let go. Nobody will ever love you, so why try? You are a social reject, so why try? So I stopped showering, stopped eating, stopped caring for myself. I let myself go because these groups told me no matter how hard you try, you will fail. I became jealous of people being more popular than me, jealous of my sister because she was so pretty and accepted herself. She had a boyfriend, but all girls hated me. At the time I didn't see that would I have just showered, girls wouldn't have been disgusted by me. I hated immigrants, gay people, women, handsome guys. Everyone I saw as more accomplished than me. It was a hard time getting out of this mindset, but eventually I made it. Turned my grades around, made some friends and went to therapy. I even have a boyfriend now. Oh, the irony. When I see incels or people like that, I just can't hate them. They are in pain and struggling and need help. Depression is one hell of beast and some people lash out in anger. So when I look back at my old self, I really just want to give him a hug and tell him everything is going to be okay. I used to be the creepy-ass weirdo who, by the time I graduated, had asked every single girl out. I literally had no idea what I was doing wrong. I was practicing all the classic southern gentleman things that I was supposed to, yet having no luck. Think milady, but only slightly less cringy. It wasn't until I got to college and went on a period of self-discovery that I knew the error of my ways. The first, and most important, concept that I learned was that women aren't sex dispensaries that you deposit nice coins into and get puss in return. They have to choose you. I still kept doing nice things for girls because that's the way I was raised, but I removed my expectations for getting anything in return. The second concept was making myself attractive, and it was a lot easier than I thought it would be. A nice basic buzz cut suddenly turned my oily mop of hair into a clean, presentable style. Went clean shaven on facial hair too, because all I could grow was a piddly pubic hair looking ass beard. Got a benzoyl peroxide solution to start working on the acne. Marching band was my form of exercise to stay fit and avoid the freshman 15. It's amazing how the problems we create for ourselves can get in our own way. I had this condition called phimosis, which meant my foreskin didn't retract, so if I had ever tried to have sex it would have been really painful and probably ripped it. Because of that I never allowed myself to get into situations that might get sexual, and even though I was purposely avoiding them, part of me still felt like there was nothing to avoid and no one was interested anyway. When I was 18, for the very first time a girl made it known she was interested in me, but TBH, even if I could have done anything I wasn't interested in her anyway. 19, I used Tinder for some reason, match a girl, start talking to her and it's awesome. We really like each other, but I could never arrange to meet up for fear of it turning sexual, and I was too embarrassed to tell anyone my circumstances. Inevitably, she gets bored of nothing happening, moves on, I'm heartbroken. 20, nothing really happened here. 21, meet another girl on Tinder, pretty much the same situation as when I was 19, we like each other, she gets bored, goes for someone else, I'm heartbroken. 23, me and girl from work start getting close, I get into my first ever relationship with her, a month or so it turned sexual and I let her know what's going on, and that I need to fix it. She's cool with it. About a year after my initial doctor's appointment, I get a circumcision at 24, 2 months later we lose our virginities to each other. 25, still with her now. Been just over 2 years. Edit. I was laying in bed with my cat pretty much sprawled across my face and neck while I typed what I assumed would be a throwaway comment. I did not expect this. What do you think about that? Leave a comment. And subscribe to this channel if you wanna see more same videos.